setting? The not-too-distant future. A finance bro, jacked out of his face on aerosolized Adderall, enters a circular chamber, not unlike the Cerebro chamber from the X-Men series. Puts on a sensor helmet, does another huge blast from his canister, and summons the creative director AI. "Show me the last logo," he says. The AI quickly renders the last version of the logo, 10.238.2048, in 38 different formats. "That's weak," he says. "Make it more alpha." He sees yet another version, .2049, appear. No, not like that. Make that blue bluer. And the bird, make it more pro, like Apple, except it looks like it could kill you, except, yeah. Version 2050 appears. No, that fucking sucks. Make it sicker, he says. Laugh while you can. Hashtag AI.
I've been through hard times too. The situation's a man. I bring the hard rhymes through. That's why I'm raw times too. Half past despicable. Last man to bring it through. Fast raps and critical stats. Analytical slap. I'm hitting you smack. I'm sticking you smack. Lips to stack chips. All with the lyrical text.
The Lord Chief Rocka, number one Chief Rocka, welcomes you back to Break Up Gaming Society, home to America's least responsible board game group podcast venture. We do three things. We talk about board games, booze, and hip-hop, usually with some surprising, or what I hope is some surprising and enriching editorializing along the way. Interesting episode today in which the bulk of it is going to be focused on Game of the Week, because I got a chance to talk to a young game designer in Australia named Sean Lee, who has designed an interesting sounding game called Cytress. And we talked about it for quite a bit, and I don't like to let these episodes run on and on, so the bulk of it is going to be devoted to Sean's work. For Drink of the Week, I'm going to walk back something I said about a whiskey way back, because I got owned. It was self-ownage. We're going to talk about that briefly, and I have a gem of a late 80s LA track for you that you probably haven't heard before, but belongs in your shuffle list, because it's beautiful. But first, we are going to meet another member of my podcasting family at Offtopia Cult. Now, here's the draw for me in this podcast, because one, it's fun to see fledgling podcasters spread their wings on the mic, and secondly, because I'm north of 50 and live in a semi-rural area, I have almost no contact or experience with people of this age and generation. There's some kids who get together and talk about making characters and what's happening in their role-playing lives. And part of the fun for me is sometimes I can't tell, because the fabric of their imagination is so interwoven with their creations. I can't tell whether they're gossiping about people they know or the characters, but that's kind of the draw. It's like getting to doing some generational eavesdropping, or getting a one-day invite to that treehouse that they hang out in after they're done being malnourished by the usual social life of high school, where all the gifted kids get together and make stories. Here's their ad.
Check out the Offtopia podcast, where we discuss art, music, and writing. The show is available on all major platforms, and consider joining our Discord and meeting our community. Offtopia. Can't stop, won't stop.
Thank you, Offtopia Cult. May you fight long and well. Next up, Drink of the Week, where I eat crow.
Drink of the Week.
Way back on episode 7, I had some fun at the expense of the people who branded Tin Cup whiskey, because I thought the branding was phony and paint by numbers, but I had to sort of eat my words because it's really, really drinkable. And even while I ran my mouth in my archway, as I'm prone to do, I recognized a marketing merchandising trick that I knew I was going to fall for, and that is, when you buy a bottle of Tin Cup whiskey, it comes with a little metal shot cup at the top of the bottle that you can, drink from. And I was holding it, this object, and I admitted as much at the time as like, I'm going to want more of these. The hook is set. So fast forward to 2022, what happens? I now have 4 of the cups. I had to have a quartet. So hats off to you, Tin Cup. Let's review the scoreboard here. Tin Cup 4, My Big Mouth 0, Liver forfeit.
Game of the week.
And here it is. It's the game of the week. Once again, as described earlier, I am the Lord Chief Rocker, number 1 Chief Rocker, talking to somebody who is in there Wednesday, Tuesday for me, Mr. Sean Lee. Hey, Sean.
Hey, Nate. How's it going?
You have a good product to talk about. So let's see how good my homework is, okay? Sean is the designer of a forthcoming board game called Cytress, that's Cytress, that takes place in a dystopian cyberpunk future, and it's an engine-building game, meaning for those of you who don't study board games a lot, engine buildings are ones where you use several different elements to create various point scoring systems according to your own strategy. And what's unique about this game, and Sean, you can tell us more, is that the action spreads not only in 2 dimensions on the gaming table, but actually goes up.
Yeah, that's right. So this game was inspired by a lot of the meaty Euro games out there, like Terraforming Mars, even some of the lighter ones like Wingspan. And it really, I just love those games. So I thought, okay, what are these games doing right? And then what are some of the elements that I like from this? Let's make that into, a something with a theme that I enjoy, which is currently cyberpunk. I'm just been obsessed with the theme for the past, more than like 4 or 5 years. And I thought, okay, let me just make a game on this. And it's not the first game that's done a 3D structure. Like there are some games that have things, popping out of the table. But I wanted to make sure that this one is different. This one, you actually use the tower, or Stratus as we call it, which is a short form for stratolite or stratosphere. So we wanted to use this as a gameplay mechanism as well. So the tower that the players ascend on, Stratus, it gets used during the game. Yeah, so it's not just there for looks; it's there, as a gameplay mechanic as well. So it's essentially just a culmination of my board game experience from when I started playing board games. One of the earliest games that I played. I think most people who've got into board games play one of the gateway games, right? Like Catan or Carcassonne, So you've got resource management, and then you've also got your area control. So it's just having those, played, started from those 2, and then, ventured into more, deeper, more thematically, bigger games, and just, enjoying that space. And so, yeah, it just became my passion, just trying to make something or replicate something of that level where you see games on Kickstarter with really fancy artwork, really great story building, and it's just my take on it. The futuristic cyberpunk board game, and it's not a game where it's just any Euro with a theme slapped on it. It's genuinely a game like I've got this from reviewers so far, from play testers, and they feel like, oh wow, you actually moving your characters up onto Stratus. It feels like it. It feels like you're doing that in the game. It doesn't feel like it's a gimmick. It actually supports the narrative, which is awesome. Yeah. So So yeah, it's been really good to see where, how long it's come, and I'm really glad that we are able to now sit down and talk about it, and just see people play. It's been a pleasure.
And you said the magic word earlier, Sean, and that is narrative. Let's rewind a step and talk about the story space of the game. In the world of Cytress, if I'm a player, who am I and what am I trying to achieve?
Yeah. So I know we earlier had a chat about this, about the state of the world right now, and how, things are a bit messy with the whole situation. So essentially you're playing as a rebel. So, you're playing as one of these cyberpunk rebels, just an everyday person in the dystopian world. And you're trying to work your way to the top, right? So there is a clear divide, and it's represented by the board as well. Like, you've got the 3D structure, which is the tower. So that's where all the elites live. The rich people, they reside in this tower. And then you've got the normal people, everyone else who's just working, their 9-to-5 job, or, just doing everyday things. And you're just trying to find a way up there, to live this life, that they're constantly looking up at, right? So you're playing as this rebel, and you're trying to do different jobs, various missions, and like any city, like any civilization, there are these different factions, right? You've got the gangsters, you've got these nomads. Likewise, in this world of Cytress, there are these different factions as well. So the 4 big factions are your corporations. We call them corpocrats. You've got your gangsters, which we call hooligans, to play on the word hooligan. We've got rovers, which are essentially a nomad. And then you've got the privateers, who are, essentially your futuristic pirates, I guess, in this dystopian world. And they each do different things, and they are essentially the big bosses in the world of Cytress, in the underbelly, right? And so you go around throughout the game, meeting these different people, and you're doing different missions for them, and as a reward, you get some of their benefits. So you as a player, you obviously play as a character, but you also have what we call a life path, or a player board, where you have 4 different life paths, which allows you as a player to branch out. So you don't have to play the character, the way it's designed. Like, you can branch out differently. You can choose to play a strict corporate life path. So, you can just work for the corporations and not do anything else. Or you can branch out a bit and, try a little bit of different everything. It's almost like an RPG, but, in a board game sense. And you essentially build on the life path, and you get closer and closer to, a certain faction, which allows you to become stronger at a certain skill. So each of these life paths correspond to one of the phases or actions that we have in the game. And it's very clear in the way it's displayed with the user interface, where we have cards just stacked right next to each other. So essentially, when you complete or build out your life path, you have pictures that are just side by side, and they make up a panorama picture, and you can see like your journey. So it's not just you're building your tableau or whatever, right? In like most engine games, like engine builders, you're actually seeing a progression of pictures. And they show you what you've done, what sort of missions you've been on. But the interesting thing is, we didn't just want to use icons in the game as gameplay mechanics. We wanted to use the pictures as well. So the pictures are also something that you have to look out for. I know it's not done in a lot of games where they just use icons to say, okay, if you want this resource, make sure to look out for this icon, right? But in this one, you're actually looking for the pictures as well. These pictures tell you something because they are used later on in the game. So we have this faction as well called the Underbelly, which is where you meet the different merchants. which is where you will be trading as well as completing different objectives. So the pictures come into play as well as the icons, which makes everything super clear. It is something that you can't just jump into. You'll get the game within 5 to 10 minutes, and to really get good at the game, you just have to play one round, and then you'll understand the whole concept essentially. Yeah.
That sounds fascinating. So, in essence, you're using iconography in a new way, and it almost sounds like as if your player's play area is almost a narrative scrapbook of sorts.
Yes, that is absolutely right. So I wanted to create like a history, like a log of what you've done, in your journey. I know most games they have, you put your cards down and that's it, right? But this one, you're actually building out. You can actually see your branches, right? And the pictures, the illustrations that show that, so that it's not just the 3D structure that I'm always harping on about, like you're moving your characters up, but also in front of you, you also have evidence of your growth, your growth as a character and what you're doing in this world of Cytress.
And it sounds like the moving vertically off of the sort of the proletariat level of the board and up, and the combination of not only using the points engines but also seeing your unique collage it sounds like that's what's getting your playtesters immersed in what's going on. Is that right?
Yeah, that is right. So obviously the most obvious thing when you see the game from 10 feet away or 15 feet away is you see, okay, what's this thing? What's this thing that's sitting in the middle of the table? And you go closer and then you see people just moving up their pieces like, hey, we're going up now, we're going up. And then you also see we have board tiles or map tiles that we literally call them mini maps because they represent where you are, in terms of where you've done your missions. So every time you do a mission, you actually put one of your markers or one of your crews on the map to say that, hey, I've actually done a mission here. No one is allowed to come here because it's already taken. And that's where you'll actually be looking out for opportunities to ascend to Stratus, right, to the stratosphere. And so when a player gets to that stage where they have enough resource, they have enough intel to go up, they will then meet with one of these stratolites, which are these people at the top, and they will do their trades, and then players will be placing these tubes. So these are also it's very, very unique tubes that actually connects to each other. It's like the game Takenoko, where you have these bamboo tubes, but for us it's actually these sort of waste chutes that the elite dump their trash through. So you're actually escaping through these tubes, and you're actually putting them on the board as well as a physical representation while you're moving your crews up to the physical structure of Stratus.
It sounds fascinating, and I have seen other people on Twitter who have copies of your prototype already in their hands. They have it on the table. It looks pretty, and I know mine's on the way. So just to let my listeners know, Sean graciously allowed just to let me play around with the sort of the pre-funded version of the game as he has envisioned it. And so just know that after this segment, I will probably be coming back on my own once having played it and revisit it again. And by the way, Sean, how many people can play Cytress?
Yeah. So you can play alone. It has a solo mode. And you can play up to 5 players. So I understand there's a huge solo gaming community out there, and I myself sometimes it is hard trying to find players to really be as invested as you. So what is the solution? Create a game that you can play by yourself. So the interesting thing about the solo mode as well, it is not just the typical beating your own high score situation. It is an actual AI that learns your moves. So it is a programmable AI that when you make this move, say you visiting the Kobokrats, they will know and they will know that you have made a visit to the corporal crafts, and they will adjust accordingly. So this is all done through the rules, and also done through a system that we've developed, and it's all included in the rules. So it's not like you have to download an app or anything like that. It's all really intricately explained in the rule book. Yeah,
it sounds rich and fascinating, although I'm wondering, it'll probably take me longer than one round to figure that out, because it sounds like there's a lot of moving parts. But I will say it does sound like a fun and wild adventure. Sean, I'm going to give you the floor. If people want to learn about you, more about you, what you've created, and how to learn more and support it, where should they be going right now?
Yeah, of course. So you can go to our main website, which is cytress.com. It is cytress.com, and sign up to our mailing list. And then you can also join over hundreds of our members on our Facebook group. And we've already got like 1,000+ people who are already part of the mailing list. And that's probably the best place, because you get the most value in terms of your Cytress board game information. And, we also do like giveaways, tips and tricks and all that. So all the goodies in our email list, definitely. But yeah, if you like Euros, like Terraforming Mars, Wingspan, Cytress is essentially a combination of both, And if you don't like resource management games, that take too long, just for the sake of it, or if you don't like, games that just have a theme, pretty much that, a Euro game that can fit any theme, you want something more like, okay, it's connected to the gameplay. Cytress streamlines both of that, streamlines the time and also, the gameplay design of it. So, it is 20 minutes per player, and, the board itself, like you said, a lot of moving parts. The board itself is also moving. So depending on how many players you play, from 1 to 5, the board just shifts depending on the amount of players to accommodate the tiles. Yeah.
Wonderful. So and there's actually one thing you said at the very beginning that I wanted to touch on before we go today, Sean. And you mentioned 2 very popular games, Terraforming Mars and Wingspan, which are, of course, incredibly popular. And you said you wanted to optimize those. So what did you want Cytress to do better than those games?
Yeah. So look, both of those games are very fun. They are very fun in their own way. But sometimes you just have, when you play a game so many times, you're just bound to find certain things that you prefer that could be better, right? And so, I've played these games, hopped in over more than 100 hours, just a million times I've played these games, obviously as a way to study them, but also just for fun, with friends. And a lot of my friends that actually get into board games come in through, Wingspan. Obviously they started with something easier first, but then Wingspan's like sort of their gateway now. And then, when they're more experienced with it, they'll move on to something harder like Terraforming Mars. And you just see bits and pieces where it's like, oh, okay, if only they could make their cards, bigger, more clearer, the way you would lay out the cards on the board, or even in Terraforming Mars, the way they do the turns, or how the game end triggers, right? You have the 3 parameters. The players can essentially play the game as long as they want if no one really reaches those parameters. So what is a way we can make it more tight and streamline it so that players don't feel like it's being dragged out, and we want to make sure that it's not just it's not just optimized for people who know how to play the game, but it's also like equal for everyone, whether you're beginning or you're experienced. It's sort of like that. It's essentially just, like I said, an experience, my personal experience as well. So I just want to say that as well. It is my personal experience on what can be better in those games. Yeah.
I notice, with a lot of games, some require quite a bit of work to get to the reward, and that's okay. And there are some, just because of the way my brain works, where it takes me 3 plays for mechanics, and maybe on play 4, I'm starting to learn strategy. So, but this has been a chat about the upcoming game, Cytress, by Mr. Sean Lee, who is here with us today. Sean, thank you. To his point earlier, go over to Cytress.com. That's CYTRESS.com. Check out his Facebook group and get on the mailing list so you can see what he's up to. I know, based on this conversation and previous ones, that I'm certainly curious and eager to get my hands on it and see what it looks like and how it feels, how this story feels on the table. So, Sean, thank you so much, and we'll be in touch again soon. All right, boss?
Yep. Awesome. Thanks for having me. Hey.
My pleasure. Adios.
Next, relax and take a seat. Sit back and play the beats and blast it in your Jeep. It's the track of the week. I'm ratchet in the streets. Talk trash to the geeks. Get smacked in the beat. It's the track of the week.
Track of the week. Come back with the Lord Chief Rocka to the late 80s, because boy, do I have a gem for you. Can almost guarantee you, unless you're an older head, that this probably isn't on your playlist, but it ought to be. Party time or any other time. It's T.Y.S.O.N. by Breeze, who was an East Coast transplant who ended up cutting a West Coast album. And I'm going to get right down to this track and why I love it. And, if you want to make a great record circa 87, 88, you get a young MC with a good flow who can also dance, who delivers with conviction, has a solid pen game, and you fuse it all to a big, left-hand whomping funk snippet that then keys off. It kind of sounds like a recorder or a flute snippet, all with a vivifying little hi-hat and a hard-hitting snare. And you got a winner.
Take a look in the future, I'd ask who'd ya? Her beat me wrong, somebody fooled ya. They never rip or cause me to panic or make me resort to my old time antics. Refuse to lose, I'm always winning, see y'all. Never duck you in a battle of freestyle. So hit the highway and just truck on. Sucker, ducker, you stuck on, now get the fuck on beat. You can't be under solo, I'm a solo, S-O-L-O. You gotta show and prove on the strength, cause ain't nobody hitting like Tyson. I'm going to live, I'm the young son of no one.
And there's one other cherry on top that just puts the bright bow on the whole thing, and that is the producer's choice, because of the theme of the song, T.Y.S.O.N. He's using as an acronym that means the young son of no one. They're like, what? Why not throw lots of samples from Golden Era boxing interviews in there? Recently, I had the privilege of being included on the Debatable podcast, where the main subject for debate touched on boxing, and I didn't realize how much I'd forgotten about what I'd loved about boxing, or how many acidic opinions I had to share about it. But first of all, thank you to the boys at Debatable for putting up with me while I held forth. But the once beautiful game and this once beautiful style of production will always live on in my heart.
Just keep it closed.
Well, that's impossible. No. Stop keeping me back, suckers. Are steadily chasing me, controls my goal and soul. It's how I'm living, see my step is kept, so let me...
And here's a cool extra credit assignment for you young bloods and you old heads alike. Kevin Beecham, a writer on Medium, recently, in the last couple of years, tracked Breeze down and did a pretty long interview with him, where you get to learn about some of the interesting East Coast, West Coast production and creative and label cross-pollination that was happening even before Public Enemy's Bomb Squad came out west to help Ice Cube produce his first album after NWA. Great interview, and I think it's in support of an upcoming book. So yeah, go check them out. That's the end of the episode. If anything about board games, booze, hip-hop resonates with you in the way that we approach it here at Breakup Gaming Society, come join the fun on Twitter at T1ChiefRocka. I'm there all the time, spouting off, being reverent, occasionally trying to be funny, and trying to stay off it when I'm drunk, with limited success. Until then, may you fight long and well.